Let's talk for a moment about Judge Juan Merchan partially lifting that gag order on Trump. It was breaking news here yesterday, a gag order that was in place during Bragg's case here in New York. Now, this newly revised order does allow Trump to speak publicly about witnesses in the case and removes a prohibition on his commenting about the jury. The gag order, again, imposed before the trial began in April and partially lifted, partially stays, though, while he takes on that debate stage tomorrow. Let's bring in our expert legal panel to discuss all of this and much more. Former federal prosecutor Jim Trusty joins us, also a Trump attorney, and a director at Heritage Oversight Project, attorney Mike Howell. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have you both with us.
Thanks for having us.
How this gag order is still partially in place, many are questioning when it comes to, the president's rights as an American and now as a presidential candidate who takes the stage. Let's just play a little bit about Trump talking about this.
Well, I think partial is very unfair because there are things we have to say, especially in my case. I'm going into a debate and I'm going to have to talk about a gag order. What does partial mean? It's not fair. It's not fair.
I'll start with you, Jim. Is there any risk to Donald Trump of what he may or may not say tomorrow? I know part of the gag order that was lifted allows him to talk about Bragg himself as a person.
Yeah, the risk would be if he gets too personalized about either jurors or the prosecuting attorneys as individuals. But I got to say, 35 years, Bianca, as a prosecutor for most of that, as a defense attorney, I've never seen a gag order. This whole thing was absurd. And just a quick point on that, if President Trump was determined to do something like jury tampering or intimidating witnesses or doing something that was criminally wrong, there was no need for a gag order. He could be held in contempt or even charged with criminal offenses for doing that. So this was always an exercise in ego by the judge, in courtroom control on the eve of the election. And it was a outrageous concept that's only gotten a little less outrageous by the modification.
I'll say it in less legalese, and you're so artful when you say it. It was to mess with him. Right. And that's what Jack Smith wants to do down in Florida with Eileen Cannon, a different judge there, though. Mike, pick up on what Jim just said, how this shouldn't even be in place and some of the, things that Donald Trump may have to think about tomorrow on the debate stage while he's just trying to talk to the American people who, he will go for their vote for November.
Yeah, the gag order is wholly unconstitutional. It's one of the more extreme and flagrant abuses of this whole lawfare season. And the kind of changing the parameters of it gets at the core of what lawfare really is. It's when you drape these, frankly, communist and subversive efforts in, terms of art surrounding American law and pretend we're proceeding through some sort of sophisticated legal procedure. And it's meant to confuse people, to try to give it some false sense of legitimacy. But what we have is a systems level attack emanating from the inside, led by President Biden and his White House, who's coordinated all of these things for the first time in American history to use the full powers of the state up until imprisoning your opponents and even threats to remove a Secret Service protection. So talking about the nuances of the law is one thing, but what's really happening is a whole of government system level attack on our own people through President Trump.
I'd like to ask about Fani Willis. Trump's team yesterday filed a new appeal demanding she be removed from the case. It seems like a no-brainer, but I guess anything goes in Fulton County these days. Jim, what do you think will play out here?
Yeah, as an Emory Law alum who spent time in Fulton County, it's thoroughly depressing to watch this circus of a prosecution down there. Miss Willis continues to run her mouth and pretend she's a victim. Mr. Wade runs around and says outrageous things on TV as well. And look, I think what happened that's going to be the subject of the appeal, the heart of the appeal, is that when you have a conflict of interest or a strong appearance of a conflict of interest, usually the solution is to eliminate all components. In other words, you don't just get a chance to pick one attorney to remove the case. Both attorneys get kicked off the case. The case law in Georgia seems very clear that if the head of the office is recused, that the entire office follows suit. So this is an important moment, not just in terms of whether Fani Willis is in the courtroom, but whether that office is kicked off the case. And I don't think there's a DA with any brain in Georgia that's going to jump in and say, let me take the reins of this ridiculous RICO case.